9 experienced hikers. A frozen mountain in the Soviet Union. No signs of struggle. No signs of an enemy. And yet, every single one of them died. Their tent was cut open from the inside. They fled barefoot into sub-zero darkness. Some tried to return. Some never stood a chance. More than 60 years later, the Dyatlov Pass Incident remains one of the most unsettling mysteries in human history. Not because it involves monsters, or conspiracies, or the supernatural, but because everything that happened can almost be explained. Almost. In January of 1959, 9 students and graduates from the Ural Polytechnic Institute set out on a winter expedition. They were not amateurs. They were trained hikers, skiers, survivalists. Their goal was simple: reach the Otorten mountain region and earn the highest hiking certification available in the Soviet Union. Their leader was a 23-year-old engineering student named Igor Dyatlov. The group documented their journey carefully. Photos, diaries, jokes, smiles. Nothing suggested fear. Nothing suggested danger. Until February 1st. On the evening of February 1st, the group pitched their tent on the slope of Kolet Cycle. The name means Dead Mountain. The weather was brutal. Winds exceeding hurricane force. Temperatures dropping below -30 degrees Celsius. Still, the hikers did what experienced hikers do. They ate. They changed. They settled in for the night. Sometime after midnight, something happened. Something that made 9 trained people believe they had seconds to escape. When rescuers finally reached the campsite weeks later, they found something deeply wrong. The tent was still standing, but it had been sliced open from the inside. Inside the tent were boots, coats, food, supplies. Everything you would need to survive the cold was left behind. Outside, footprints led downhill toward the forest. Bare feet, socks, no signs of panic running. Just walking into the dark. The first 2 bodies were found near the tree line, beside the remains of a small fire. They were barefoot, lightly dressed. Above them, on the slope between the forest and the tent, 3 more bodies were discovered. Their positions suggested something haunting. They were trying to go back. Weeks later, the final 4 were found in a ravine, buried under meters of snow. These hikers had injuries that didn't make sense. Crushed ribs, severe internal trauma, almost no external wounds. One had a fractured skull. Another was missing a tongue. There were no signs of a fight, no signs of an animal attack. The cause of death, officially, was listed as a compelling natural force. That phrase would echo for decades. Why cut open the tent instead of using the entrance? Why flee without shoes in lethal cold? Why split into groups? Why did some try to return, while others moved deeper into the forest? Why injuries consistent with a car crash on a quiet mountain slope? For years, theories exploded. Military experiments, secret weapons, infrasound, aliens. But none of them explained everything. Until scientists asked a simpler question. What if this wasn't chaos? What if this was a series of rational decisions, made under extreme pressure? In 2021, researchers published a detailed avalanche simulation. Not a massive avalanche, a slab avalanche, a dense layer of snow, silent, fast, and incredibly powerful. The hikers had cut into the slope to place their tent. Hours later, wind-driven snow built pressure above them. When the slab released, it may not have swept the mountain clean, but it would have slammed into the tent with crushing force. Enough to injure sleepers, enough to collapse part of the shelter, enough to make escape urgent. They cut their way out. They moved downhill for shelter. They planned to return, but the cold was faster. Some succumbed to hypothermia. Others fell into terrain traps. Snow compression caused internal injuries, without external wounds. Not one dramatic event, but a chain of small failures, stacked against human limits. And yet, something still feels off. Because even when science explains the mechanics, it cannot explain the fear, the silence, the decision to leave safety behind, the calm footprints into darkness. The Dyatlov Pass incident reminds us of something uncomfortable. Nature doesn't need intent. It doesn't need malice. It doesn't need mystery. Sometimes, it only needs a few minutes. And no second chance. 9 people walked into the Ural Mountains. With skill, confidence, and preparation. None of them walked out. Not because of monsters. Not because of secrets. But because the margin between survival and disaster is thinner than we like to believe. And once crossed, the mountain doesn't care